comments that you share on Instagram Live, on YouTube, on WhatsApp, even Twitter at Smooth981FM. The hashtag is freshly pressed 981. Divo, let's get into the stories. The first one is from Punch newspaper. Fear groups, ministers, governors, villa guests as Kyari aides test positive. Abba Kyari, the chief of staff to the president, and the Bauchi state governor, Bala Mohammed, they both tested positive for COVID-19. I particularly like Punch's report because they highlight they tracked the movements of Abba Kyari and the Bauchi state governor in the past week or more. We know that Nigeria recorded the first case of coronavirus on the 27th of February. Before that, Abba Kyari had visited Germany and Egypt, some of the hot spots around the world. But what are your thoughts regarding this story? It's about how many pages long? 4 or 5 pages long?
9 pages.
Very detailed. Please go on.
Well, every day now, because we are in unprecedented times, we will be bringing updates because of how fast uh, things are playing out. Okay, so it is important that everybody keeps their ears to the ground so that you can hear and update yourself and hear the truth and the facts of what is happening as against the rumor, the fake news, and the fear that is being driven. In this case, one of the major highlights yesterday was um, the panic that gripped governors and ministers, especially those at the center of high leadership within the country, and that was right there in Assau Villa, whereby the chief of staff, that's Abba Kyari, was um, declared he had gone into self-isolation, of which when tested, it came out positive. Now, there are two government officials that were tested positive. One was the chief of staff, Abba Kyari. The second was the governor of Bauchi State, that is Bala Mohammed. Now, on Kyari's case, right after the first case, that the index patient here in Lagos, he traveled with some people to Germany and Egypt, okay, to discuss with Siemens on our power deal,
Yeah.
okay. And Egypt has had a very rough case. Germany not so bad, but Egypt within Africa has had the worst form of the outbreak. Then, on coming back, he did visit. He attended the Federal Executive Council meeting, okay, where other governors and ministers in the cabinet were present, and he also visited the Kogi State governor, where it was said that yes, he shook hands with the Kogi State governor. I think he's also been declared to be in isolation, and I think as of yesterday, I did see reports that he also tested positive.
Yeah, he went to sympathize with the Kogi state
Yes,
governor over the death of his
over
mother.
the death of his mother. Now that's his own itinerary, which they've traced, and now they're looking for the contacts. Now, for the Bauchi State governor, um, he made a trip to um, yes, he made a trip to
He attended the NEC meeting, the National
yes, the
Executive
National
Council
Executive
meeting,
meeting,
and
which
where the
also held
governors were
within
in
the same
attendance.
Abuja, where
Yes.
also other governors and ministers were present.
Mm.
And yes, even though we saw pictures of them trying to apply the new social distance handshakes, many of them didn't take this to the full extent. And we can see that he has. So in both cases, their own government has, the state government has declared that he has gone into self isolation. Now, this comes as the NCDC has confirmed that there are about 44 cases within Nigeria as of yesterday. We wait to hear their update for today. Now, this goes to show you how, because they're no different from us, this goes to show you how whether taking this outbreak, this pandemic serious or not, has affected us or not. Because there's been a high level of doubts as to whether is it real, is it not. On Sunday it was a major battle with some worship centers. On Friday as well, getting them to maintain the social distancing recommendation. Okay, now even there, right at the villa. Now, just to give you an update on, okay, now that these two have been declared, what is the case with the rest? So the report does state that uh, because of that outbreak within the presidency, they have asked those who were in contact to go into self isolation, and I think they're getting tested. Currently, the vice president, it has been stated that he's also under uh, self isolation. As of the meetings that took place yesterday, he took them via video conferencing. Three of the chief of staff aides have also tested positive, of who have gone into isolation for for treatment. Now, the Garba Shehu, that's a media assistant, also has been asked to go on self-isolation, and some of the senior directors within the chief of office
And
staff.
that's because Garba Shehu accompanied Kyari
Yes, they were
on the
all
trip. They were all together.
yeah, they were all together with this movement, and then all others who were within those zones or had some kind of proximity, they have asked them to go into self isolation. Now, I mean, you see, um, it is instructive for those who believe that those in high places were untouchables. Now you see that it's gotten right to the epicenter. We're only grateful that our president, who was also in the thick of it, tested negative. So
Yes.
he's coasting clear. But I think he will also operate from a distance to ensure that he doesn't get in contact, because we did hear last week of how the daughter did come back and has gone on self isolation because she came back from one of the countries that had a major outbreak.
And that those are just some of the few people who individually, took responsibility,
Yes.
right, to self isolate. It's just a normal thing to do, or normal thing to do. Chatasan shared a comment on WhatsApp. He said the test shows how utterly responsible the president and those around him are. Kyari came back from Germany via UK and Egypt, all coronavirus hotspots, and felt too big to self isolate, and no one could tell him to. Then he was photographed on consecutive days with various members of Nigeria's top echelon, including APC top dogs, governors, and members of cabinet. Nigeria is now rudderless, he said, because of Kyari's actions, and both Nigeria's president and vice have gone into self isolation. It shows how selfish our political class is. That is only now that Buhari was exposed that they began retrofitting the Astro Rock clinic. And that in itself is a major indicator
Yeah.
to how much neglect, the
Because
health sector
now,
has had.
as some say, you can't travel outside. It's not the first option you take. Many of them are trying to find their way back home. And as some also look at it, that this might be the fine stroke with the global pandemonium or pandemic, because unlike advanced nations, many of the developing nations are now being forced to take a stern look at their own health facilities.
Yes.
Because whilst every other person is trying to help themselves, you're left to whatever you had made yourself. So here we are. We've always had dilapidated health facilities at all levels, from primary to secondary to tertiary health institutions, and that's what we have to deal with in this time and season. So if you lay your bed,
Ways or palliatives for certain businesses, one of which was announced after the MPC meeting, Monetary Policy Control meeting. The CBN governor said that they are retaining the MPR ratio at 13.5%, maintaining other policy parameters. I came across a document that I'd like to share some of the details of with you. This was released yesterday, part of CBN policy measures in response to COVID-19. It's a short document. It's just aimed about 6 points that are enumerated there. It was signed by the Director of Financial Policy and Regulation. It's right before me. It's titled CBN Policy Measures in Response to COVID-19 Outbreak and Spillovers, one of which is an extension of moratorium. All CBN intervention facilities given another year,
right?
effective March 1st, 2020. Some other parts, interest rate reduction. Interest rates are all
For
applicable
intervention
once.
funds.
Exactly, for intervention funds. And then the very vital part, the 50 billion naira targeted credit facility to help workers, establishments, SMEs, and all that, especially those hit hard, particularly by COVID-19. Please review these processes for me, especially the outcome of the NPR meeting.
Okay, fine. And then, because there were still issues on how it's playing out in Lagos on the other story that we need to
Yes.
get back to.
Yes.
Okay, fine. Well, currently CBN is doing its best, actually, to see how it can play its role in trying to mitigate the outcome of this virus breakdown, and also some of the global macroeconomic fallout, especially where it concerns the oil price. Now, they've had two MPC meetings. That's the Monetary Policy Committee meetings, and as of yesterday, the first one was where they listed out some of the items that you have rolled out. those were steps to see how they could kind of, create some kind of palliative environment. Okay. Now, in one of the issues that you did state, they mentioned about interest rates for intervention funds. Okay,
Yes, yes.
those were some of the funds that they've intervened in some special areas. I think they've dropped it from 9 to 5. Okay,
Yes.
which is less the burden. And for the moratorium is the period which you're meant to pay back a loan. So instead of the usual quarterly, monthly, they've shifted it to about a month to give people room.
A year.
Yes, a year. And what that means is you're going to have sufficient space to be able to make it back, knowing that if you're hard hit, it's going to be difficult to make back what you had loaned.
And that would call for consequent adjustments of repayment schedule.
Yes, so that's from the CBN's point of view. Okay.
That's right.
Now, the special intervention fund, which was meant to go to the healthcare sector, which was all obviously in this time and season, what hasn't been done before is being done now, so that we can raise capacity. Because if you look at the reality of the health sector's adequacy, we have more or less. First of all, we have a drug security problem, which means we don't have sufficient drugs to be able to treat not just the coronavirus, but other ailments within the country. Nigeria is more or less 99% dependent on imports in terms of drugs and healthcare equipment. Okay. Two, in terms of the building of facilities, they haven't broken it down in detail how this would be distributed, but at least some funds are being made available, even though it's late. Okay. Now, also for those who did read it, also they adjusted the budget in conjunction with the finance minister. They took off about 500 billion, which was earmarked for the what people refer to as subsidy,
Yes.
which was the under recovery. Okay, and then the other 1 trillion was adjusted to bring about some. Let's not call it savings, but because oil prices shifted, the benchmark was at 57. It's dropped to about 25 now. Obviously, we're not going to make that revenue, so you have to adjust what your planned expenditure was. Now, in the second meeting, what they did essentially was to take a tough decision between growth, okay, of the economy instead of dropping rates, all right, to stimulate some level of growth versus maintaining the rates, which is what they did. They maintained the MPR rate at 13.5%, because they said with the interventions that they have earmarked in the first meeting, they would like to watch and see the outcome of how those interventions go before they take another position. Because if they were to raise it at this point in time, DMBs, that's banks, would
Deposit money banks.
yes, deposit money banks, which we all know, would increase their own rates, and that wouldn't really help. That would mount some pressure on lenders. I mean, on those who are taking loans. But what I would say is this: one of the levers that they've used, which I think has been the most beneficial to the economy as a whole, is the adjustment, what they refer to as the adjustment in the exchange rate from 305 to technically about 380. Okay, so that has, in a way, because of the speculation and the hit and the run on dollar, that has eased some of that pressure to some extent.
All right. Thank you, Devo. Let's take some messages quickly. Zikolo says, please, I want to confirm if there's been an official confirmation of Abba Kyari status. The results, just like the Bauchi state government did. Yes, there's a confirmation. He tested positive. The vice president is in isolation. The president still is in isolation. The president got tested. The results came out negative, but the NCDC said they will be back in another week to test the president again. Please add your names to your messages. Lara from Lekki says, I believe SA is worse than Egypt regarding the coronavirus outbreak. Babs from Lekki says, all said, let it be on record that there hasn't been, excuse me, hasn't been an official statement from the president on Abba Kyari. Hope you understand the implications of this. I've been talking all morning, so my voice is cracked. Sheon says, the chickens have simply come home to roost. Elite and political leadership have always acted above the law and beyond instructions or reproach. The instruction was to return and quarantine yourself for 14 days on return, but our bigwigs are too big for that. They've gone around on jamborees as usual, thereby spreading the infection. Well, let them go to the hospitals they've built and the doctors that we have in excess in Nigeria. That's sarcasm.
Yes.
Every man for himself has always been. Sarah from Ikeja says, good morning, guys. An update this morning shows additional 2 cases. We'll confirm that in time. Stay tuned. Imam from Agbara says, please, the lockdown will not work because majority of Nigerians live from hand to mouth. It's a conversation I started yesterday just to ask how what the government is planning to see how they can help ease the stress on residents or local businesses, especially the informal sector. Bengus Bengus says if there's a time that all Nigerians need to be sensible, the time is now. This is not a time to be cynical or engage in unnecessary politics. You can donate monies or materials to fight the scourge, like some philanthropists are doing in some parts of the world. Do not aggravate the problem. The likes of Pep Guardiola donated 1 million euros to his country, Spain, to combat the problem, rather than criticize and abuse the government of his country for not being proactive enough, as Spain is one of the worst hit countries in the world. Shegun says the responsibility, lawlessness, and stubbornness of the elite is what may spread the virus around the country. Shegun from Lagos, thank you for your comments. Let's connect to the stories, especially speaking to how the presidency is restricting media coverage to 13 media houses vis-a-vis Lagos state government putting in more stringent measures. They cut down the tally from 50 to 25% in a particular spot. I see a lot of stores around Lagos are applying that
Yes.
directive. But let's start from
The word is Operation Social Distance, okay?
Definitely.
And I think people need to bear that in mind versus the lockdown, because of the apparent fear that it evokes in the minds of people.
Yes.
Whilst you're trying to address this, contain this virus or this pandemic, what we need to understand is the steps being taken so that you can flow with it without resisting or take it for granted, like some of our officials have done. Now, in the presidency, with the outbreak, especially with the confirmed cases and those that are in self-isolation, they've restricted, obviously, the presence of the media. They've selected like 13 media houses that would be there. They've said that there should be no gathering within the villa beyond 50 people, and if they must sit at least with arm's length away from each other. Okay.
You know, the at the was it a FEC meeting? The vice president was given a wide berth to
Yeah,
the
of
people
course.
around him. Left some
Even
seats
even in
vacant between him
the
and
in
some
the
others.
task team for the pandemic outbreak, I think the health minister, he's yet to update how far. He said some future meetings would be held digitally.
Yes.
So these are all aspects that are being taken, and not just at the villa. It's many state governments, though coming up late, have started taking social distance actions. Okay, many state governors, because the truth is this: our ability to be able to defeat this pandemic lies a lot in the hands of the governors and their ability to show leadership at a time like
By
this.
example.
Yes, and lead by example, because they're the ones closest to the people. So you would have been hearing on the TV and on radio many of the state governors. Enugu announced, Bauchi announced, Yobe announced, Kebbi, Kwara announced, the Kogi state announced, and Lagos that we are in did announce. As for Lagos having the biggest population and numbers, okay, prior to this time, successively on a daily basis, you've seen new announcements from when they said worship centers should reduce to 50 people. I think they've updated that to 20 people.
Yeah, 25.
25 people. They've also said that schools, they close down schools as of Monday.
Yes.
All right. Both primary, secondary, and tertiary. The federal government locked down the NYC camps. We've not heard the judiciary take action on the prisons. I think that's been a concern for some people because of the congestion within the prisons. Also,
For in terms of judiciary, the magistrate
the
courts
courts
and
also,
everything are
yes, the
closed,
courts
yes.
also have been on lockdown and
Police
key.
stations as
The
well.
civil servants have been asked to go home
Yes.
from level 1 to 12.
To work from home.
It's a work from home. They will operate off-site, and also the markets, which are a major source of people traffic. What they said, as of Thursday, Lagos markets will shut down, except those who sell food and essential items
Like medicines.
like medicines, pharmacies, etc., and then the foods that we'll eat. I think still the last lap, which is the major concern of many, is the transportation. And in as much as they've closed the borders, land, sea, and air, what has been deployed as of now is that many of the bus drivers are being asked to have hand sanitizers or even hand washing kits before the passengers enter the buses,
Yeah, but
and they're not meant to
how
sit
well
more
can
than
you control it
60% of
like
the
that?
capacity.
Yeah, sorry, Devo, but how
Yes.
well can you control that? Yes, hand washing, the sanitizers
Hmm.
before you get on a bus, but you know this thing is a respiratory tract disease.
Yes, it's very easy
It's
to be
something
passed
that,
across.
thank you very much. Somebody sneezes in a bus.
Or
How
coughs
is a
without
washed
covering their
hand going to
face.
protect the next person from
You
contracting
know,
it?
I have to say this on behalf of the government because many people scream, "Shut the country down, shut Lagos down. Everybody should stay in their homes." In as much as yes, that is the ideal action to take, but you must consider how the government is also going to manage the outbreak. Many middle class and elite people may find themselves in positions where they can only let me say it in pigeon. Now, person we get money, they
Mm,
stock up.
mm.
Are you understanding?
Yes,
Many
yes.
Nigerians, the bulk of Nigerians live on subsistence on a day-to-day basis. Okay, and if they don't have food, many people don't have food more than 2 days. They don't have deep freezers to keep food for a week, etc. And co. Two, there's the issue of light and provision
People
of
live
storage,
from hand to
etc. Yeah,
mouth.
people live from hand to mouth. So if you lock up everywhere, you're creating another issue that might even backfire. So it's a thin line they've been operating. There's a lot of pressure on them, and hopefully, you have seen the government successfully take steps. From Thursday,
Mm.
I think they will check the outcome. They've also said the security forces will assist in enforcing it to ensure that people maintain some of these social distancing recommendations.
Chata has her thoughts to share regarding the story on the presidency restricting 13 media houses from Aso. He said, still on the theme of government secrecy, does the reasoning behind removing critical news outlets from the coverage list make sense? Is this not the time to bring everyone together and be transparent? If even in a time of great crisis such as this, Nigeria's official apparatus is still thinking politics, then we are done for. Mr. C says, the culture of hiding the truth and deciding what to share has to stop. Why are they restricting media houses that have been critical of them? They were supposed or supposedly elected and are accountable to the people for their acts and omissions. They should drop the politics and focus on helping the nation through this period.
What I would say is that they can deploy technology there
Mm.
and videos. I mean, we've seen that in many international broadcasting room that is streamed across board. So it's open to all. It's not even just the media houses.
Yes.
So we need to do that, and I know the presidency has the efficient equipment to be able to do this.
Messages. Daniel Ochani from on YouTube says, was Bello also tested positive, or did he test positive? Yes, he did for COVID-19. Modupe Sanders says, the Nigerian middle class is only about a quarter of the population, and she also said, like Devo said, a total shutdown is not feasible. Thank you. Keep sending messages to WhatsApp 0809 We have Cornelius from Agbaras commenting. He said, we need to educate people about this social gathering. I was at a store in Lagos, or in a store in Lagos, where they told us only 20 persons allowed. But unfortunately, we're more than 50 waiting outside to take turns to enter. How then is the effectiveness of the measures in place? I'd say they can only control the number within their premises, not outside their premises.
And even on the outside,
Mm.
Nigerians, please, as much as possible for your own sake, adopt your social distancing methods. If you watch some videos from foreign countries, Spain, China, America, you will see even at shops where there's panic buying,
Yes.
they ensure that the lines are kept and maintained as long as possible.
Mm.
In some restaurants, some are only doing takeouts or even drive-by
That's right.
purchases
That's
to
right.
ensure that people don't come in contact with themselves.
Yesterday, I was at one of these shops on Adiola Deku, major mall, a shopping mall yesterday, and I was, the usual thing that would annoy you, traffic that's created by queuing.
Right.
So they made the cars queue up outside and they locked their gates. So to
Yeah.
limit the number of people that
Of
are getting
course.
at the same time.
Some of them have also insisted that those who are to buy, consumers will wear gloves,
Yes.
so that you don't go about touching
Yes.
and passing around.
But what I found really impressive was how they were controlling the number
Yes,
of people
the number of
inside
people.
the store at a particular time. That was really commendable. I mean, thinking health and safety above just
Precaution is important.
economy or revenue. Enyichiku says, "Good morning, people. I suggest we also shut down the motor parks to prevent interstate travelings because people are still traveling. Local flights, by
Yes,
the way,
that's
are still
the last
operating.
mile, which is transport. They've blocked international flights in or out. However, local flights are still on. Local land transportation is still on. Like I said, it's successive, and I know that by Thursday, between Thursday and next week, we will see more drastic decisions taken by government.
Akinwale Nkeja says, Smooth Crew, please help us appeal to the governor of Abia State. He came back from the US last week and has been moving around without isolating himself. If care is not taken, this guy will do exactly what Abba Kyari did in Asorok.
Well, I think now that top officials have been affected and governors, many of them will take those actions.
Devo, please, let's quickly touch on this story. It's a very sad situation that happened in Yobe State. Thank you. Boko Haram killed 47 Nigerian soldiers. There was an ambush. The official military statement revealed that the terrorists must have gotten intelligence from the villagers, from the locals themselves. How true is this?
Yes, I think the information broke from Premium Times, and the director of communications did blame the ambush on the locals, that they had leaked intelligence of the officers who were moving a convoy with fuel and ammunition from a successful campaign that just took place, and that's what led to the explosion, which killed about 40 of the soldiers. They have commiserated with their families, and hopefully the usual process will take place after. But it is still a near and present danger within the country that we're facing with the insurgency taking place, especially in the northeast.
Thank you. Cheta has a comment regarding that. He said, I do not know how or why the military is still playing games. Various international news outlets reported 70 killed. If there's anything that the coronavirus crisis should teach us, if we are teachable, it should be the value of honesty and transparency in public communications. But these people are so wedded to this idea of secrecy in order to look good that they will keep lying, he said. Heck, that Boko Haram can attack and kill up to 47 soldiers in one swoop, assuming the number is correct, should tell you a lot about what is really happening there. Thank you, Cheta, for your comments. Very quickly, let's touch on this. House of Representatives, they passed a bill to prevent retrenchment during an epidemic. It puts in some palliatives for the companies. 50% of income tax paid to employee salaries, being taken over or, handled by the federal government. Your thoughts?
Yeah, these are all in the bill to push some kind of stimulus for the citizens of this country while we're facing this pandemic. However, in conjunction with the Ministry of Finance, this bill obviously will go through reviews to ensure whether Nigeria has the capacity to be able to deliver this.
Yes, and very instructive.
And I think they need to take it, extend it even further, because we're waiting. While we've seen the CBN and the monetary side, we need to hear from the finance ministry and the fiscal steps that they can take beyond the budget, maybe with exercise duties, with duties on what is being moved, or maybe dropping rates on some particular selected industries, especially the manufacturing sector, that will boost industry and employment right after this pandemic is over.
As a means of to mention AMVCA's AMVCA attendees, those who were at that event, Lagos State government has advised that talking about the African Magic Viewers Choice Awards, it was all over social media with the dressing and everything. Lagos State government has advised that all the attendees isolate themselves because there's a known contact person who tested positive that attended the event and greeted a lot of people.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Some of them have been removing their pictures online just as proof that they were not there. But you know yourselves, please do the responsible thing. And for those of you who know those who attended, ask them, and if they refuse, report them.
Yes.
It's gotten to that stage. We need to ensure that those self-isolation is the least you can do to save the country from further spread.
That's right. Removing pictures does not remove the virus. Please do the right thing. Do the needful. Isolate yourself. We'll be extending this conversation inside of Lagos Talks 981 at 9 o'clock. That's the time. I'll come back to share your thoughts, including all the messages that you sent on WhatsApp that I didn't get enough time to read. I'll read all of them so we can have an extended conversation on the stories on coronavirus around the country. Stay with us here on Smooth 98.1. Next, we talk sports inside the locker room.
The headlines.
Thank you, Divo.
All right. The stories.
Thank you.